Welcome again to Questions No One Asks. The numbers tell us that these interviews work better on video than they did as written pieces. I am now with Shantnu Mehra in Noida at their studio and workplace. Shantnu is one half of Shantnu and Nikhil, a popular and yet complex brand. Its complexities look apparent, but that's not what they are. Amongst the many questions that I'm going to ask Shantnu is how do they continue the popularity and the complexity of Shantnu and Nikhil? Welcome, Shantnu. I'd like to also start with the fact that Ram Charan, the South Indian actor, recently wore at the most watched cinema red carpet of the world your garment, and you have opened just last week another new store in Kanakura.
Correct.
This is success, apparently, clearly. How do you define success, Shantanu?
Success, I think, Shefalee, is just it's a state of mind. I personally feel that we haven't yet succeeded. If we thought that we are successful, that probably would have been the end of the road for us as a brand. There's still a lot more to be done. There's still a lot of energy and chaos within the brand ecosystem and the business. But yeah, having said that, it's always a good validation when somebody popular wears you as a brand on a red carpet which is globally recognized, and it's a fair red carpet. You know, it's fair. All the awards that are given at the global
Most credible property
it's the most,
of the world.
yeah. So it kind of authenticates your positioning as a brand. And who better than Ram Charan for RRR? The idea was the vision was very simple. He played a certain character, which was police. Army is something that has always inspired us. So we wanted to just give him something that had the heritage of India, but also had that whole uniform philosophy to it in medallions, and then a signature drape asymmetrical kurta that was just kind of adding to that layering oomph. And
Right.
I thought he looked good, and he stood out.
Everybody looked at Natu.
Yeah.
So everything made each other look good.
Absolutely.
So congratulations on that.
Yeah.
About the store, let me deepen the question. There has been expansion.
Yeah.
And it has been in SNN, your sub-brand, as well as your other segments. So talk to me a little about this expansion, and what does it come at the price of something?
Not really. You know, from 2015, 2016 onwards, Shefalee, we were very clear that our vision is for the brand, for every other Indian to wear us. Of course, we are couturiers, and with couture offerings, you probably cannot fulfill that dream. So we were, in 2016 anyways, going on a very disruptive journey of bringing in a sense of minimalism, especially on the menswear side. Women's wear was still pretty much sorted. We had carved out a signature philosophy that is true to who we are as a brand, which is silhouettes and shapes and kind of being the anti-trend setters that we are in that ecosystem of ceremonial couture. But menswear was somewhere deep down, we thought that this is an opportunity. Not many designers, not only in India but across the world, focus on menswear, and we had already sort of just touched a sweet spot of introducing a bit of femininity in our menswear drapes, a bit of your military influences, your little details that sort of brought the entire minimalism playground into our menswear ecosystem, and I think that's what triggered this conversation between Nikhil and me, that how do we scale this up? Can we bring about a culture which is menswear driven? And SNN was subconsciously born in 2016, and could we do it alone to scale up? I thought we required a lot more. We required merging of strategies, thought process, thought leaders coming into the whole scenario where creative freedom does not get affected by how we want to scale up. And I think we were very sure that we wanted to get corporatized, but corporatized in a fashionable way, not corporatized from a venture capitalist or a private equity way. SNN was born right after we merged
Yeah.
with Aditya Birla Fashion and Retail Limited. And SNN is still a predominantly menswear driven brand. 70% of it is menswear. And it's a fun, playful brand. We are also decoding our couture business. This project is very close to us because this is sustainable retail to a certain extent, and it is really the strong melting pot of vintage meeting modernity. So,
Shantnu, I'm going to meander back to business and we talk of your design. Take you for a moment to a bereavement, personal bereavement that you had. Your parents passed away recently, one after the other. And I remember when we spoke, you said that they were the reason, it was their inspiration and their motivation that brought you and Nikhil both back to India after your short work and studies there. I want you to know, how deeply is the Shantnu and Nikhil brand blessed and influenced by what your parents did for you?
I think it's a brand that was started with my mother's dream. She was the man in the house. My father was almost a person who was always backing her thoughts. He gave up everything for her because that's the kind of person he was. He was the one who sacrificed, and my mom was truly entrepreneurial in her spirit. So we saw the overlapping masculine and feminine energies. My parents had to deal with two different sets of personas, and how delicately and beautifully they handled it gave us the wings from the very outset to do things that we could do. One day I just surprised my mom and dad and say that I'm back because I wanted to be with you, and they were surprised that why are you back when you could have actually, you were working there and you had so many opportunities to kind of make a living for yourself. And I said that I'm here because I'm here for you, and I want to do something, and I want to call Nikhil back as well.
You know, often enough when two people, Nikhil is your real brother, he's the designer, you are the business strategist, and perhaps the mind that structures this whole business. Now, often enough when two people work at a business or two people do anything together, there is a lot of room for debate and disagreement, just as there is the consonance that it is two arms. And when we speak of husband and wife duos, we wonder if there is competition and how do they navigate and negotiate those things. How has been this relationship of a business partner with Nikhil been? It can't be easier just because you are brothers.
No, I think it's been again, I go back to my parents, bringing us up as two different individuals. I think we had a sense of camaraderie already during our early growing years. We weren't the best of friends at that point in time because we were different schools of thoughts. But then I think our defining moment of connecting with each other was when both of us were in the States. And United States of America can be lonely for students. For the kind of extrovert that Nikhil was, he was finding himself to be in a very lonely place. And I was okay because I thought I would fill in and be that lonely person there. So that's where I started to emotionally mind his energies.
Are you the older brother?
Yes, I am the older one. But he never actually approached me in the early years to find a solution.
Yeah.
But this time when I found a solution for him and I was constantly in touch, I think that's where the bond really blossomed. We have our disagreements, but those disagreements are more to arrive to a solution than getting ego and arrogance involved in what we want to do.
Your brand speaks for star power, sports. You have a cricket club collection.
Yeah.
These are also quasi-religions of the culture of India. Fashion is not as much as fashionable as cricket and starriness or cinematic glamour is. But the Shantnu and Nikhil brand is connected to these very populist ideas.
Yeah.
Now, when you're so popular, some would say it's easy to be successful. But I don't really agree. I think there is a complexity there. And how do you marry creative freedom? How do you maintain creative freedom while working with sports and Bollywood and stars, because that's where they pull away a lot of credit or a lot of how your brand eventually looks. So can you talk to me about popularity versus complexity?
And a very good question, Shefalee. Like I said, it all boils down from the fact that we still feel we are unsuccessful as a brand. Every show, every collection that we do, we feel that that's probably the only chance God has given us to let the world know that we have arrived. And every time we feel we've failed. And I think it's something that we don't do it on purpose. It's the way.
You don't see the decision to a sports star, a Sania Mirza arrives and throws a fit. You're still going to dress her in Shantnu Mehra.
Yes. So this is where I think we are blessed. Probably I give it more to Nikhil. He's blessed with a lot of creative freedom in his head. He's a restless soul. He likes to delve into things which are uncomfortable, but in our heads we feel it's achievable.
And you, the 51% stake that ABFRL has in your brand, you told me once in an informal conversation that you have learned a lot of processes and a respect for scaling up. Can you talk a little about that? What do these processes really mean?
I think before the marriage even happened, we had defined many processes already in the business. What we obviously hadn't defined was governance, like true governance, through certain technological tools that come into being, where there is one source of truth, which is more like an ERP or a SAP-driven environment, where one plug-in is kind of triggering off the entire chain of things to happen in this operational world that we also live in. We may be designers and sometimes we befool ourselves, and we also sometimes cheat others. Design is 20% of who you are as a brand. It is the operations that sort of align with the made to measure concept that we have in this country. If somebody comes to your store and puts an order, and that order is on a paper, and that paper has to then be read by someone who hasn't even seen that customer,
Yes.
There have to be processes. What this marriage has done is it has made those processes even more defined, sharper, where you make lesser mistakes even when you're doing an order. There is I would say an industrial engineering concept now in place, which means there are for every particular product category, whether it's a bangala or a gown, or even for that minutest of silhouette details, there is a time allotted that this is the number of hours, number of minutes that you will take to manufacture a product, so that you kind of don't fall into that trap of delays, quality issues. So all of those things have come into being.
And my final question to you, do you think fashion weeks in India are still relevant? Because let's say your store launch in Kalagoda recently was like a show you had.
Yeah.
You had guests who were celebrities, you had influencers of the young and old kind, you had film stars, you had glamour, you had a place. So you had a venue that was an offsite. And so why would you show at a fashion week, or will you?
See, fashion weeks in India, to me, they've lost their charm. But I'm saying that because probably I'm lucky to have I'm sitting on that fashion food chain where I can dictate and I can say, okay, I can skip this, I can do something on my own. But then there are many of these younger designers who are still finding, and they're bootstrapped. They don't have the capital infusion, or they don't have their own seed capital that gives them the authority to do things at their own will. So it has its yeses and it has its no's as well. But I feel that the formatting of the shows is still age old, from 2000 when it started to where it is. I feel there is no innovation still. Fashion weeks should be a celebration of creativity. It should be a celebration of how you want to showcase your might as a brand. Even if you're an upcoming designer, I don't think that has happened.
Thank you for wearing us well with our questions.
Thank you.
Shantnu
Thank you
Mehra.
so much.